We position them in the market ready to communicate with their audience. We have seen a gap there where founders rarely invest on branding. It's not about looking good. Everything you do in your business, it is about brand. The earlier you start your job with branding, the more advantage you will have. Try to think with the users in mind. What's their problem? What frustrates them? Be as clear as you can. Once you answer that question, it will be easier to move users and convert them. Without clarity, you cannot achieve anything. Every time we try to do things simpler. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? You lead with the agitations and frustrations that those audiences have and the solution that you are offering. How do you explain your solution to a young child? People are building more than ever before. You can really build products in a day. Strategic branding is branding with intention, knowing what to do, when to do it, what to expect, how to respond. Clarity, trust, and conversion. Those should be the primary focus when it comes to branding. If your positioning is clear, people should be able to understand you and convert. The good thing is that we offer brand audit, one free spot every week.
Hello, my name is Darius Kraucionis, and welcome back to Founders Unchained, the show where we sit down with founders, builders, innovators, and investors. And today we have a special guest. His name is Rubin. And Rubin, he is the co-founder of Studioz, which is a branding partner for many startups. And he helps with strategic branding, positioning, and also innovative visual identity. Rubin, it's a pleasure to meet you here. Thank you very much for joining this episode. For those who don't know you, can you just introduce yourself? Just explain a little bit about your background, what you do, what your business does, and the most important, how you can help with startups.
Hey Darius, first of all, thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to join you today and share my learnings and everything I know about the tech world and branding. I'm the co-founder of Studioz, where we help tech startups from C to Series A with branding, from strategy, positioning, building their voice online, to building their visual identities, to digital experiences. So we help founders from the first stages to launching. We position them in the market ready to communicate with their audience, to take their space in the market and own their category.
So basically your client is like pre-seed companies, which is starting to build a brand, and we're thinking about how we're supposed to be positioning themselves in the market, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So we help from pre-seed to seed, Series A, and more. Most of our clients are in these stages, right? So we are focused mostly the early stages because we have seen a gap there where founders rarely invest on branding at that stage. They are mostly focused on product and rarely branding. While branding will help founders a lot in the first stages. It's not about looking good. Branding doesn't have to do with logos, with colors, as a lot of founders expect branding to be. Everything you do in your business, it is about brand. So the earlier you start your job with branding, the more advantage you will have compared to your competitors.
All right, so I'm just curious to understand what is your opinion about those AI tools. So for example, nowadays, or even myself, I was trying to build a website for myself. What I saw that there are a bunch of tools which is offering you the service where you can actually type a script, what you're looking for, and it can build the whole website for you in a minute. So there are a bunch of tools which actually helps you to build website in a minute, but unfortunately it doesn't mean that this website is going to show your real positioning or your real character of your company or the services what you're providing. And another point is what I really would like to discuss with you. What do you think about the companies, specifically in Web3, who are designing the website and you're coming to that website to check what we are doing, but sometimes it's not really easy to understand what we do. I think this is the problem down to bad positioning because, you also, I hope, seen a lot of cases when you are visiting website and you have no idea what we are offering and what kind of services we are offering because the website information and the whole positioning is so superficial. You also see very similar examples, right?
Yeah, I've had this conversation a lot in the past 2 weeks, especially the last week where I was mentoring 6 teams to build a product with AI in one day. So it was mentoring them from the idea stage to find their idea, to narrow down that idea, right? Build a product, the first MVP, and then pitch it on stage. in front of 200 people. Doing this, I have a lot of thoughts about AI, which are fresh right now. One of the first thoughts about AI is you should use it. If brand designers are listening this, or designers in any industry will say this guy is crazy and doesn't know what he's telling people right to do. But here's the thing. When I started personally 10 years ago, I had some tools that I had to use. One of those was Photoshop, Illustrator, anything. And starting out, I was building websites with Photoshop, design-wise. I didn't know anything about copy positioning at that time, right? Those was the tools that I had in my access that I could use. I couldn't use AI or anything else. 4 years, 5 years later, I started using Figma, and I was saying, wow, I was doing websites with Photoshop, which was way easier with Figma, right? So I switched to Figma because the workflow for me got very easy in terms of managing files, etc., and working with teams, right? Nowadays, it's AI. Personally, we don't use AI a lot when it comes to websites, but for founders who are starting out, they should use it. Even designers, because it is a tool that you should learn. It will give you access to try things faster. But having this kind of tool in your backlog doesn't mean that the result is going to be good. Because if you don't put good input, you are going to have bad output, like any other tool. Even if you use Figma, Photoshop, whatever, the best tools, the craftsman tools, if you do it wrong, it will turn out bad, even with AI. So it is a matter of time until you master the craft and learn what's good, what's bad, how you want to position your company. Try to think with the users in mind. How are we going to convert those users when they jump in our website? And when it comes to that, you should think about what's their problem, what frustrates them. Be as clear as you can. Don't use buzzwords. Don't use those kind of words that they don't use in their daily language. I see a lot of startups right now in the AI space, and everyone is saying AI this, AI that, AI this, AI that. And users don't care or don't understand anything. They only understand that, okay, another AI tool which I have to learn. You should think, what's in there for me? What does this tool is going to help me achieve? So once you answer that question, it will be easier to move users and convert them at the end, right? So AI should be used, but should be used in the right way.
So basically, as I understand, first you need to work on the idea itself, what you are selling, what kind of problem you're solving, and then you need to produce some kind of, explanation for the AI that you are solving this specific problem, and you need to catch the attention of those people who will be visiting your website, and the message needs to be super clear. So let's come back to the positioning itself, because in my understanding, all those designs, like flashy things, is not really so important. Looking to the positioning itself. And I think this is where the majority of startups were just missing out, because we're starting to build the product, and majority of them were just, scratching their head later on, and we're thinking, why we're not selling anything? Why we're not selling the product or service? And it comes down to the problem that we actually cannot explain what we are selling, what we are offering, or maybe it's complicated for them to explain to the people. And nowadays, people are trying to save time. If I will come to the website and it's not clear to me, I'm not going to waste my time in that specific website of that company. If I will be in that website and I will come and I will see the straightforward solution to my problem, then it will catch my eye, and then I will stay, and potentially I will be buying services or product. Let's talk about the positioning itself. So what is your strategy when you work with startups? How you actually lead the client towards that result when we're getting your service, and after all, we have like very clear branding and positioning?
Okay, so a very good question, and it all comes down to clarity. I'm going to tackle this a lot. It is the core thing when you work with brands, right? And the way you market those brands, the way you make your users engage. Without clarity, you cannot achieve anything. Because if you are unclear, you are telling the user, like, read me again, so you can understand me. And if you raise that friction 2 times, 3 times, users will have a hard time to trust you or to buy you. And when it comes to positioning and strategy, every time we try to do things simpler, not complicate, especially in the early stages where founders don't need a framework with 100 steps because they don't have the team, they don't have the capabilities to follow that kind of framework. So the frameworks we build are super easy to follow for small teams that they can implement right away.
Okay, and can you explain how that framework looks like, just generally?
The framework starts with the user, right? Trying to understand their not only demographics, but psychographics as well. Because, we know that our ideal client is Darius, 30 years old, 2 children, have educated on this school, etc., 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 right? But those kind of demographics are only used to search or to find your users daily in the platforms like Meta or Google or LinkedIn, wherever you are trying to target those users. When you try to think in psychographics, you are going to think, what is it about Darius that frustrates him? What is that Darius wants? What is that Darius aspires, right? When you enter the way your customers think, everything becomes easier in terms of how do you communicate with that, because you are talking to their fears, to their aspirations, frustrations, and wants. Once you have that clear, you start building strategies on how you are going to communicate and reach out to Darius. That is the first step. Without having that clear, you cannot move forward.
There are loads of startups which I noticed very flashy. But again, we come to the same problem that we speak a lot about themselves, how brilliant we are. We have really nice designs and so on. But rarely those startups were catching my eye. I was looking to many pitch decks, websites, doing due diligence on daily basis on many cases I have. And my business partners were presenting deals to me. And to be honest with you, in most of the cases, when I look to the pitch deck, sometimes I just don't really want to go to the second slide to look at it, because the first one is already showed me that startup founders, we didn't invest enough time actually to build this pitch deck, to think about the end user at the end of the day. Because, the investor, also the human, if he will be looking to a pitch deck, he also needs to see it in exactly the same way like our customers or users will be looking to that. And if we miss this information straightforward at the beginning in the first slide, the startup most likely is failed to pitch and present the deal. First of all, when you are starting a business, you need to build this like one-liner, which will explain in one sentence very shortly what exactly you do and what exactly you offer. You would be surprised how many startups don't even have this like one-liner which explains. We normally have like very superficial information. For example, we are layer 1 protocol, let's say. And for me, for a person who actually looked at hundreds of pitch deck, one layer protocol says nothing. I'm actually trying to save some time, and I'm not looking to this pitch deck anymore because it didn't catch my eye.
That is the kind of buzzword that I was telling you previously. It is a technical term, the one you mentioned. When it comes to pitch decks, the first rule that I always lead with, me as well, looks a lot of pitch decks, and we help founders with designing their pitch deck, but not only design, but creating the story and how this is going to be pitched, right? The first thing founders should have in mind when they are about to pitch is that they should make it clear to investors or whoever looks at their pitch deck is that they understand the problem or they are about to solve a problem. And we always lead with the problem. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? It is actually the same framework that we use to the websites, in that sense that you lead with the problem, you lead with the agitations and frustrations that those audiences have and the solution that you are offering. You will not start your pitch with, I'm Rubin and we have solved this thing, like we have built this kind of product. Most likely be stating the problem. A lot of teams happen to waste a lot of time in managing the final files for sending to their clients. Let's say that you have built a product about managing files to send to your clients, right? So let's pretend that you have a big team. So if you have a big team, the problem is that managing the final files to send for delivery will waste a lot of time from your team. while you can allocate that time for other tasks. You state the problem. Like, the problem is dev teams waste 40 hours a month delivering the final files for their projects. But focusing those 40 hours in these areas of your business will get you this. So we built this kind of solution. This is the kind of stories that you are trying to build when you pitch. To understand the problem, tell me what is the frustration, and later sell me the solution.
I really would like to also share my own experience, working with venture capitals, for example. Where are some unique ideas, let's say, or startups who are building something very unique. And sometimes investors also can get the pitch deck with some really unique angle or, let's say, unique idea. And the problem is that sometimes venture capitals also, we have no idea what it's all about, but we understand that this is something unique. And what to do in those cases when it's really hard to explain the problem for the people who are actually looking to the things from helicopter point of view, because we receive like 100 pitch decks a day. And due diligence department, we need to filter out the deals, bad or good ones, and pass it to the further due diligence to the investment team. And for a person who have no idea about that specific like industrial technology bit or part, how to explain to those people in simple words, the new idea?
That's a very good question. And it is a problem that we face a lot. And one of the questions we do founders is, how do you explain your solution to a young child or to an elder who have no idea about your product or doesn't understand how technology works? This is going to force people to use the simplest of words, because children or elders will not understand technology. In very rare cases, they will understand what LLM is, for example. By doing this question, you are forcing them to think how to use the simplest words, and it is a 90% success rate with this question. They will come up with a creative way to explain their product, remove the technical terms or the buzzwords, and from there we build the story in simple words.
That's actually good advice. I remember one person told me that if you understand, it doesn't mean that somebody else is understanding in the same way.
Yeah.
So he said, exactly like you said, you need to be super simple. You need to be capable to explain very complicated things in really short and very efficient way. And it needs to be, very clear to understand. Okay, so that's actually good advice what you said. People who are looking this podcast, they are like startup founders. What we will be discussing today, it's going to be definitely very, very beneficial.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching, go and try this one tip that we mentioned. Try with a kid. If they are going to repeat back to you, that's it. That's how you should explain what your product does or what it solves.
So, Rubin, why branding matters more than ever for startups nowadays?
It matters for only one reason. People are building more than ever before in a rapid speed that nobody expected to happen. You can really build products in a day nowadays. The MVP, from idea to MVP to pitching that idea. The tools are there for you to build and test and iterate within a day or within a week, depending on how many iterations you are going to have. We are seeing a lot of products. The question is, are people buying products or brands? When was the last time you said that you are going to buy something that wasn't related to a brand? Like, branding is important right now because there are a lot of products launching every day, and people don't need new products, right? In their psychology, they don't need anything new in their daily life. They have some aspirations, and most of those aspirations and wants are about time, money, for example. You're going to solve for those problems, right? But when going to solve a solution, you're going to build a product, but that product will iterate over time. 1 year from now, that product can be totally new product from where you started. Connecting this with the brand part is that when you build brand, you can build many products. If you build your brand, or you don't have to do it from scratch, You can build or add another product to your portfolio, or change the product from the beginning completely. And people will still buy from you because they associate good products with good brands. In rare cases, people will expect a bad product coming from Apple, for example. They will buy whatever Apple puts out there because they connect Apple with quality. But they are not going to buy a phone, they are going to buy an iPhone, because a phone you can find 100 different types. Why not buy the cheapest, or why not buy the biggest, or why not buy the widest? But people don't buy features, they buy brands. They don't buy products, they buy brands, because a brand associates them with something. Is it quality? Is it status? Whatever it is, they associate the brand with the product, right? And nowadays, brand is going to decide which of these products is going to survive 1 year from now, with the quantity that we are seeing products coming out every day.
So in my understanding, a good example might be like huge corporates, like if in food industry. Maybe you personally also noticed that, for example, in the shops, you can find many products which are actually was acquired by some huge corporates. So you can see like chocolate, you can see like drink or something else, like products for the kids, let's say. So, if you will have a look, you will see that the huge corporate is owning all those brands. And those brands were offering also multiple type of products, but under the same, brand name. I'm not going to buy some random name chocolate. I'm going to buy just only chocolate which I know by brand because I used it. I used to try it and I liked it. And if we're going to offer something new to me, most likely I'm going to try it because I already trust, as I said, that specific brand.
Yeah. This happened a lot, and it is called brand architecture. When brands buy other brands, they will not change the name, or they will not put that brand associate with themselves. Only they will make it hidden. So this is the power of branding, as you mentioned. Because when big companies, big corporates buy brands, they don't buy product. They can clearly develop their own product, which can be the same taste as the company they are trying to buy. But they are buying that company because it will be profit, because people eat that kind of chocolate. And for me, it is going to be a much higher cost if I develop the same product and build awareness and build a brand around this kind of product, right? So it makes sense that I buy that kind of company instead of developing mine.
What is the strategic branding in simple terms? Can you just explain for the people who had nothing to do with that, but sooner or later we're going to learn about it?
Strategic branding is branding with intention, if we can say it like this. When you go to market, you go with a strategy. You're going to do XYZ. And if you brand without knowing what to do, it is like playing a chess game which you don't know what's going to happen next. You are going to move the queen, but you don't know what kind of response you are going to have from your opponent, right? It is like playing a game of chess somehow, where knowing where to go, how to position your pieces in the board so you can have the most coverage, knowing what moves to expect from your competitors, and eventually win the game. Branding doesn't have to do with one piece of the business. There are a lot of pieces in the businesses, and moving those pieces correctly and like one body of work, that's strategic branding. If I could put this in the simplest of words, knowing what to do, when to do it, what to expect, how to respond.
Everything what we discussed previously, that it looks like that founders don't really know how to positioning themselves. We're not investing enough effort and time to branding itself. So why do early stage founders misunderstand branding?
I'm not quite sure why they do, because to me it is very clear. Mostly it happens because we see a lot of examples of bad branding. And when you see something a lot, that becomes the norm. So it is okay that they understand somehow, which shouldn't. A lot of companies don't invest in branding, or when they say branding, they think of a logo, a color, a type, something like this. They only visual, which is okay, because when we think of something, we most of the times we think in visuals, and the visuals are the ones that stick. But sticking that visual representation with the intentional, emotional. Let's say I know Darius is an handsome man, but when you stick with the emotion side, like I've worked with Darius, he's an handsome man and he's a great guy, this is the part where things start to change.
I could be like handsome guy, but I'm really bad person, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I got your point, and it's really good point, because sometimes, the superficial visual, it's like says nothing. We're a bunch of nice and handsome people. So in business, I think, I agree with you that it's not just only visuals like a logo, it needs to have character. And to me, like branding, it's like showing somehow the character around this logo. Let's say if that guy will be like very handsome, but you will apply like some sport elements around him, like he's wearing, suit or training suit. So that gives the character, and you can understand that this person is doing something with sport. And this is at least how I understand the branding in simple words, that you need to add some elements to the branding itself to show a little bit more in depth about yourself, about your business, about what you do, or maybe to highlight somehow the problem, what you are solving.
I take those examples, as you mentioned, a lot of times, trying to describe branding with people. You cannot expect like a lawyer to show up in a sports suit, or it will be very hard for you to buy from that lawyer.
By the way, it's a funny story. Founders Unchained. Have you checked the logo what we have? It's like Founders Unchained. It's like rounded and circled logo. I was shocked, to be honest with you. Majority of people who are coming to me as potential guests to the episodes, they are coming from Web3. And I was trying to think, why are we coming from Web3? And I realized that in our logo, you can see some blockchain elements. And this logo, it's actually pretty obvious that it's all about the free, let's say, or blockchain technology. But my goal with Founders Unchained is basically to become educational platform for multiple businesses, multiple industries, not necessarily Web3 or blockchain. Of course, I'm expert in Web3 and blockchain, but my goal is completely different. I want to make a general podcast show for the founders. We can build something in biotechnology field, we can build something in blockchain. It doesn't matter for me. It's because my target audience is like global market, multi-industries, industry agnostic. This is a good example what kind of mistakes I did building this brand because I was picturing something related to blockchain, and I think I need to change the logo. I believe, because it doesn't show the whole vision what I have in my mind.
Yeah, now you're starting to have
Yeah.
some thoughts. The core idea, even for the visual identity, is that it should evoke trust. If you trust something, you are going to buy it. And branding is to build trust. The first stages is to build clarity, right? With strategy and positioning. With the visual identity, you build trust. And the building the digital experiences, that's the point where you make people buy in, you make people convert. So clarity, trust, and conversion, those should be the primary focus when it comes to branding.
So, for example, just taking my example in consideration, Founders Unchained logo with blockchain elements, what I should change, in your opinion, to be more attractive for the people who are working in multiple industries, not just only in blockchain or Web3 space, but, if I would like to target biotechnology companies, I would like to make a general brand for all kind of founders. What would be your advice for me specifically?
Yeah, very good question. And the first step I would do, if let's say we are talking about the visual identity, is try to make it much simpler. Remove the chains because I see in the logo that there are quite some chains, right? I understand the idea Founders Unchained, but if you can put that in a simpler way, that people will have it easier to draw. If I see your logo for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, will I be able to draw that icon or your logo? So once I can do that, I know that I can remember you. That is in my memory, and I will try to go in that direction, maybe move or try to do the chains in a kind of a way that are simpler, make people draw it easier, and be much more inclusive, and not have a lot of details when it comes to textures or the broken chains, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this advice. I will keep this in mind because, to be honest with you, I'm exactly the same like other founders do at the beginning. This YouTube channel was like the new creation, what we actually built with my business partner, Arturas. I did exactly the same mistake. I used ChatGPT. I just written a couple of sentences and I said, look, I'm going to build this YouTube channel. Please produce a logo for me. And it did it. And from that day, I actually using the same logo. I didn't do any change. Everything what we discussed today, actually, it gave me some thoughts because I think that everyone should sit down before building anything just to think, do you really solve the problem? How to represent your solution to the community and how to be memorable. So this is the reason why I actually so enjoying this podcast, just because I also can learn something from this, honestly speaking, so it's really valuable to me personally. And I hope for the people who will be watching this too, is going to be valuable too.
Absolutely. One thing about creating logos with ChatGPT. So first thing first, any AI cannot do that yet good properly, right? But here's the twist. It is okay if you build your logo in the beginning with any AI tool out there. What is not okay, expecting to grow with that identity, because it will serve the purpose of you keeping momentum and doing your business plan and trying to take the first steps, taking your first customers, maybe having your first rounds raised. But when you want to grow beyond that, it will become a barrier for you. That is the time that you should invest, but you shouldn't keep it too long, because the more you keep it that way, the more you are going to lose, right? Because that is not a visual identity, that is not a brand. If you put yourself in the brand footsteps, you are going to grow much more than you are right now. The brand should give you some kind of framework, not just a logo that you can put in the corner of your screen, for example. I love that you took your brand as an example here for the founders to learn something and maybe rewind a bit and have a second look to their assets, right? Because one day it can help you grow or it can become a barrier, depending at what stage your business is, or what stage, that's it, at what stage your business is, it can become a barrier or a growth asset.
Just because I'm critical thinking person, I'm not doing something before I think about it. Is it worth to do it? Does it make sense? And so on. So I'm taking this example of Founders Unchained logo, just because I understand there is some room also for the improvement. And I believe a lot of room for the improvement. But how can founders know if a positioning is weak or unclear? Because, for some of the guys, we created some logo, let's say, and we believe that this is fine. It's like super version what we can do. How rationally thinking, we can do some assumptions, that it might be not okay. Because, for one person is okay, for another is not okay. And we are different, people, and we have different approaches and different mindset. From your perspective as an expert of branding, how we could evaluate, is that logo is actually weak, or let's say unclear?
Yeah, I think we can tackle two subjects here. Because you asked in the beginning, when do you know when your positioning is bad or unclear, and connected that with the logo. You know when your positioning is bad when you are not getting back what you expect, right? Let's connect this again with the chessboard, right? If one piece is in the wrong place, it will happen that you are going to get attacked and miss your most important pieces. Or if your piece is in the correct place, people will have a hard time coming around you and attacking you. So connecting this with the brand part is that if your positioning is clear, people should be able to understand you and convert and come express interest in your product. When it isn't working properly, it is that you are not showing up as much as you should, or you are in the wrong place.
So basically, we could say that if you are doing something wrong, it's quite obvious that nobody's going to come to you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to watch your, let's say, episodes,
Yeah.
or nobody's going to come and buy your services or your products just because you don't build this like rapport or trust with a potential customer. And yeah, so those are very, very important things. And yeah, people who will be watching this, please keep in mind that, there is some space to work on with the branding, because it's important. At the end of the day, it's all about business, right? There is no traction, there is no sales, and there is no business. So I think it's worth to take a look at this part. What are the most common positioning mistakes you see in startups?
This is a great question, actually. One of the things, positioning happens in the mind of the customers. That is where positioning happens. And I want to take this example. Let's say that you own a beach bar. The last place a customer will expect a beach bar is in the top of a mountain. So if you are trying to position your business in the wrong place of your people's mind, the chances are that your customers may never arrive. So doing so, you have to try a lot to position yourself or your product, your business in the right area of their mind. It should be done in that way that when people think of a solution, of a problem that they have, okay, we are going to solve it with this business, with this brand.
Yeah, that makes sense, absolutely. And that is really awesome example. It was like a book about Eskimo who is selling ice cream in somewhere in the north. It's a good example. But that book, it was all about that Eskimo guy. He was able to sell the ice cream even in the north. But I think it might be also a good example from that perspective that, for example, if you are building your brand and you are saying that you are ice cream seller in north, what it's called, and most likely people are not going to buy the ice cream because we live around the ice cream. If you got my point.
That's a very interesting point, because people are competing in the market that is overcrowded. And this story that you are telling about the book, it is basically you competing in an overcrowded market. How are you going to differentiate? How are you going to position your brand as the obvious choice? Clearly, there is a lot of ice cream out there, and people can either do it themselves, or they will take a walk and will find ice cream, or they don't need it at all in that case. The way you position your brand is by flipping the script in this case, when the market is overcrowded. And one of the best examples I can take of this is Liquid Death. Liquid Death, for you who don't know, is a water company who sells water in a can, which looks like a beer can. They flipped the script. They took everything that their competitors had. It was the type of bottle, the size, the way you grab it, everything, the customers, the colors, you name it. And they did everything that they didn't do. They put water in a can, designed it that way that it looks like a death metal band with that kind of illustration, and they got the attention since day one. Outgrew every competitor in that stage.
It's a good example.
Flip the script. Dare to flip the script if you are in an overcrowded market.
With that example, we covered the same example what we've been discussing, that why branding matters more than ever nowadays. And I think you're absolutely right that the market is oversaturated with a bunch of very similar solutions. Specifically in Web3, for example, you can find many companies who does exactly the same things. And for them, it's challenging to be a little bit different, to show themselves differently. And investors were seeing the pitch decks, which actually looks like copy-paste in most of the cases. And those guys, if we don't have anything unique to show, or we are not finding the ways how to show it uniquely, then we're losing the game, because they are, one of 1,000 other projects which do a very similar thing. At least it looks like from the, user perspective that it's exactly the same thing. So I think the startups should work on the things, how to show themselves in the unique way, or how to show it differently comparing with competitors. And that example with canned water, amazing example, which shows that sometimes by being creative, you can outstand others and you can show yourself, in unique ways.
Absolutely. Dare to flip the script. People will be confused in the beginning, but if you live in their mind, or that is the positioning part that where we were talking, like you have to position yourself in the mind of your customers, and
Yeah.
if you do that, if you flip the script, people will not forget you. And
Yeah.
if they will resist the first time, the second time they will try your product. If your product lives to the expectations, they will become your loyal customers. They will associate themselves with your brand.
So I would like to ask you as an expert, for example, my case, I'm a host of Founders Unchained. And how do you think, what is better, to attach myself to the branding as a person, or it's rather better to keep as it is like now?
This one is a tricky question because I should know a few things before I suggest you anything. So I don't want to be the guy that tells you do it like this because it's going to work, right? Rather, I would say that people associate brands with people in some cases, especially when it has to do about conversation communities like you are building. You are the face of Founders Unchained. And for me, Founders Unchained lives as your brand. You are the face of that company, right? Of that podcast. Doing so, I think both of you, Founders Unchained, and you as Darius, should match and try to build the same.
I need to put the chain on my on my neck, and just to make a picture, it will be like founders in the same place, like with chains. Okay, yeah, got your point. Looking to your LinkedIn profile, I noticed, Rubin, that you are saying not only about the strategic branding, you're also speaking about innovative visual identity. Can you explain what does it mean, visual innovative identity?
I would remove the innovative part. I believe this is adding some level of friction to the visual identities, but let's say that yeah, we do visual identities and are always part of our branding process. It is creating from scratch or redesigning something, refreshing a brand. It is part of the process. If we were to say what's innovative around that, is that our process involves founders a lot in driving the results, right? We are not the kind of studio that we tell founders, okay, sign this contract and at the end you are going to get this, and if you like it or not, we don't care. But more it is involving them since the first stages until the last stage. They don't get any surprise at the end, but more they are involved and they understand the full grasp of what it takes and why every decision was made that way. Because when you design, you should design with intention. It's
Yeah.
not that I designed that logo that way because I liked it or you liked it as a founder. That will resonate more with your customers. Everything we design, everything we do is to think what our customers will think of this, how they are going to associate us with. It's not what I like and what you like as a founder, because I may like blue, you may like pink, and the customers only care about green. It is not a case of personal taste, the correct way to design for your customers.
So as I understand, your team is actually working a lot on the research, psychological research. What is the profile of the customers, how we think, what is the age, and based on that, we also make decisions, designing, branding,
Absolutely.
and doing other stuff.
Most of the cases we do positioning strategy and messaging before we jump on any visual identity work. So until we jump at that process, we have a full understanding of their business, what are they selling, what they are trying to appeal, how, etc. We have like almost all the questions. And when we jump in the visual identity part, we do a bunch of questions again, right? And propose them with a mood board. So a mood board is envisioning the final results, how the brand is going to look at the end. So we propose 3 mood boards, and which are different from each other. Everyone has its own mood, and we sit with the founder, have a talk, how we see the end results. And once we decide on that specific mood board, that's what we know that we should go for, because we know what results should look like. And from there, it is a matter of time, like once we propose the first drafts and refining those ones until we get the end result. And there is no surprise included in our process in any way.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Some of the things are new to me, so it's good. I'm learning also. How do you balance aesthetics versus functionality? There are some brands where you can see that those brands are very minimalistic, let's say. Other brands, we have logos and everything around it. It's so overcrowded with so many different elements like coloring, pictures, some symbolic, let's say, aspects. So how you balance between this aesthetics versus functionality?
Going back to what we were talking before, is knowing how you should be reflected to your customers. Let's say that people live up to expectations. If one day a designer at Apple or the head of design at Apple woke up and said, we should maximize everything, put elements, put this into the design, nobody is going to approve that, because people expect something from Apple, and that is not it. So doing so, everyone expects something for their brands. Finding the balance is more about responding to that, the expectations of your customers. It's not what I like, what you like, more than responding to the expectations.
If we will take, let's say, youngsters and older people, so if I will come to older people with brand which is like pink colored logo, or let's say the product with a pink color, it's not going to work. But for the youngsters, it might be really cool stuff, because we really like to see the colors. This is how I understand, basically you need to have a look at the customer first, understand how he thinks, and then apply some certain, designs for them.
Absolutely. And I really love this example that you put here, because it shows us that design is really intentional, or it should be intentional, based on the age or in the group that someone belongs. You are going to design for that group. So another thing that people should or founders should think of, it is the age gap. If it is very diverse, let's say your audience works from 20 years old or 15 years old until 50 years old, what are you going to do? It is the same that the problem that you explained with Founders Unchained. You are going to try to make something more inclusive. If it is going to be targeted on children or for elders, you are going to design for that audience, so it appeals to kids or to the elders, right?
What should startup invest in first? It's like creating a logo, creating branding, or think about the messaging. In your opinion, what you would suggest, from where to start?
You should start from positioning. How do you want your brand to position? Once you do that, messaging, the logo, every asset, everything that you create should support that positioning.
I'm just curious to understand, if user experience also attached to the branding positioning. Do you involve user experience, like For example, if a client have platform, product, application, or website, do you go throughout all those things, also checking if the client will be satisfied to use this?
We do also user experience. The user experience part is one of the most overlooked parts, which is very important. And let's put it like this: the experience, or the first experience that you have with a brand, will determine if you are going to use that brand the second time or no. So if you are building the wrong experience, forget about getting that customer back. And leading to that, the way that you interact with that brand the first time will open up or unfold how you are going to use that brand the second time, third, etc. It is a very, very, very important part of any tech business.
Okay, but you as agency, do you check the customer's infrastructure, how we do things with user experience? Do you check functionality, let's say, how many steps we need to go through to in order to buy the service or to see the information about the product or services? Do you do that as an agency and help client also to adjust what is the best user experience supposed to be? And can you also highlight mistakes what we make in terms of user experience? Can you just elaborate on this?
There are times that we do those as well, especially in times where our clients are building their own platforms. We do the user experience part, deciding on how many steps or every step of the way from landing that customer to using their product and how they are going to use their product. We do that as well. And one of the mistakes I see is founders add a lot of friction or will not add a lot of friction at all. So there are two kind of frictions: is good friction and bad friction. A good friction, for example, is when you have that kind of product that people should sign up directly, like let's say sign up with Google or sign up with Apple, and you can immediately try their product, right? That is a good friction. But in some cases where you require people to add a lot of information about themselves before them trying any product at all, it can become a bad friction. Because why are you asking me all these questions until I don't know anything or I don't know if I'm going to use your product again or no?
Some applications in App Store doing exactly the same, like this negative friction. Before you use the service, what you do on the app, you need to answer so many questions. You realize at the end of a survey that we are offering you to buy the product straightforward, to pay for it. Even before I even had a chance to try the product, I need to buy it in order to get the access to it. And I think this is bad friction. Maybe this is just only me, but in those cases, I'm just completely deleting this application and not coming back anymore. Because it's supposed to be like free trial to give to the customer to try it and then ask for the money instead of asking the money to give the access to try. I have no idea what's going to be in that application.
Yeah, you can ask people questions if they are signing up a lot and not ending up using your product. For example, you have people that don't use or don't come up the second time. What you want to do is add some qualifying questions when they sign in. For example, Darius, what are you? Are you an engineer, designer, etc.? What are you looking to do with our app? Or learn or develop anything? Like in this way, you build up some questions that will lead to them learning or having a few hints along the way before using your product. In that sense, they know what to expect, and having that personalized feel to them, it makes them, okay, this whole app right now is personalized to my need. And now I have my dashboard, which is designed for engineers or me as a designer, right? That is good friction.
I'm not having problem with survey or to answering the questions, but what I noticed, majority of the apps, after you did it, you're just getting to the point when you need to pay for the app. But I even didn't had a chance to open the screen just to see the user experience, how it looks like. And then I would decide to buy it or not. And this is the mistake what we do.
Exactly, that is the worst friction you can have. Even more when you promise people a free trial, which for me, it should be included in every product. And that kind of free trial where you don't ask for my credit card. Just give me the trial, let me test it, and when the day comes, remind me to buy, right? Don't ask me for the credit card.
Exactly. So this is the solution. You can push the notification later on and all the problems is solved, but at least the client needs to have an access, for a couple of days, for one day, for even 1 hour, 5 minutes, just to see the screen, how the user experience looks like. Maybe I will try it and I will see that this is my product. I really want it and I will buy it straightforward, or maybe I will buy it after 7 days after I will receive a push notification from the application. Nowadays, when we have cybersecurity issues around the world, when people are afraid to leave their bank card details everywhere, so we're trying to be cautious. We're trying to secure the data. And I'm not willing to give my card to any random application, just to keep it. Before I buy, I actually need to check many, many things, and make decisions based on that. Okay, when you're first starting the business, you have your branding, you have your positioning, but after some times it may happen that you need to change it because maybe you are not getting the traction what you was expecting, so you need to make changes. How do you evolve the brand or how you make changes and not losing the existing customers?
That is a problem that happens a lot and should be highly considered, especially when you have client base or a big client base, right? The first step before you take any actions like this is do a brand audit, which we help companies do. And the good thing is that we offer brand audit, one free spot every week. So because we know that there are people who cannot afford but still want to improve their brand or want to take some action towards their brand, and we give them insights on what to do next. But let's say that you took the brand audit. There are two cases. One, you are going to revamp or do a whole rebrand because let's say you have outgrown your current brand or you are trying to appeal to a new audience or current audience doesn't fit anymore, or you have changed your product, anything like this. That is the case where you will need a rebrand for a new company, a new vision, a new mission. And in other cases, it will be a brand refresh where you will need to keep up with the market, with the growth which is happening, to say or to signal the market that we are grown or we are ready for the new experiences or for whatever is to come next. That is the part where you don't want to lose customers and you want to only grow your client base and still keep the existing one. In those cases, you are going to want to keep any asset that is recognizable. If it's logo, its color, its typography, or anything like this, you are going to keep those, but only refresh slightly so it is better improved version that will work better on print or on digital or in any new assets that you are going to use that.
I really would like to highlight that you can do audits for the people who wants to think about the strategic branding, positioning, maybe to check out if their existing, brand is okay. So I would like to welcome the audience, who will be watching this to come to Rubin just in case if you need any support. So Rubin, thank you very much for being with us, coming to this episode. Everything what you explained about the branding and positioning, I think it's going to be very valuable for our audience. And I really wish you good luck with your business. And I hope you're going to have many, many customers and you will be able to help them out with branding and strategic positioning. So thanks a lot one more time.
Thank you, Darius, for having me. It was a pleasure to share my thoughts, our process with you today and with everyone listening today. So thank you.
I really appreciate your time.